When rude passengers mocked a fallen soldier on a flight, no one expected a young man to stand up and defend his honor. But Barron Trump's unexpected act of courage changed everything. Watch what happens next. Comments below. Where are you watching from? And if you like and love our story, kindly subscribe our channel, Life Inspirational and Motivational Tales that explore themes of love, unity, and patriotism. Stay with us always for interesting stories. Thanks. Let's start the story. The airplane was cruising smoothly through the sky, its engines humming softly as the passengers settled into their seats, each lost in their own thoughts. For many, this was just another routine flight, a simple journey that would carry them from one place to another. But for some, it was far more significant. Among the passengers was a solemn sight, a casket draped in the red, white, and blue of the American flag, carefully loaded into the cargo hold. It was the body of a fallen soldier, a man who had given his life in service to the country. His final journey home was one filled with dignity and respect, as his family awaited his return with grief and gratitude. On board, a hushed reverence had taken over, and most passengers understood the gravity of the moment. The sacrifice of the soldier, who had laid down his life to protect the freedoms that so many others took for granted, was something that deserved to be honored. It was a somber occasion, and the sight of the casket alone brought a quiet silence to the cabin as people respectfully acknowledged the weight of the moment. Many passengers chose to reflect on the soldier's life in their own way, and some simply gazed out of the window, lost in their thoughts. This was a flight that, for some, marked the passing of a hero. For others, it was just a reminder of the cost of freedom. But as the plane reached cruising altitude and the hum of the engine settled in, a different atmosphere began to permeate the cabin. Some passengers, apparently unaware of the significance of the casket, began to whisper among themselves. Their voices, at first soft and murmured, grew louder as they expressed their discomfort with the delays caused by the careful handling of the fallen soldier's remains. Their comments started innocently enough, but soon they turned into jokes and crude remarks. A few started to make fun of the situation altogether, mocking the soldier's sacrifice, questioning the inconvenience it caused, and discussing how such a delay was hindering their own travel plans. Barron Trump, sitting quietly in a corner of the cabin, had been observing the scene quietly at first. He was a young man who had been raised in the public eye, a figure surrounded by the media and constantly scrutinized because of his famous parents. But Barron had always chosen to stay out of the limelight, preferring to observe and remain as unnoticed as possible. He was not the type to seek attention, preferring the quiet moments when he could simply relax or read. His experiences growing up had taught him to ignore the noise of public life. But today something was different. The rude passenger's disregard for the fallen soldier struck Barron deeply. He had grown up with a profound respect for those who served their country, especially those who made the ultimate sacrifice. He had seen his father, Donald Trump, honor military service in numerous ways, and he understood the importance of showing respect to the brave men and women who protected the nation. But the mocking and insensitivity he was hearing now felt like a direct affront to everything Barron had been taught. It was wrong and it was painful to hear. The laughter and snickers filled the cabin, and Barron felt his stomach tighten. These people were laughing at a sacrifice they could never truly understand. Barron's mother, Melania Trump, who had also heard the disrespectful comments, looked at Barron with a mixture of concern and sadness. As a mother, she had always shielded Barron from the harshness of the world, trying to give him as normal a childhood as possible. But now, as Barron's face grew more serious and his jaw clenched, Melania knew that something had to be done. Barron wasn't one to speak out loudly, but there was something about this moment that felt different. It was as if he could no longer stay silent in the face of such disrespect. Barron had been taught the value of integrity, honor, and respect. He had witnessed countless moments when his family had been unjustly criticized or attacked by the media. Growing up in the public eye, Barron had learned to remain composed and keep a low profile. He had seen the kind of cruel remarks his father had endured, but he had also seen how his family had risen above the criticism. However, this was different. "This is what we do," said the SS man. This wasn't about politics or public perception. It was about something much deeper. It was about respect for the very people who made it possible for everyone to live the lives they did. The fallen soldier's sacrifice was the ultimate act of love for country, and the mockery of that sacrifice felt like an affront to everything Barron believed in. He couldn't sit back any longer. His parents had always encouraged him to be strong, to stand up for what was right, even when it was difficult. Barron realized that if he didn't speak up now, the moment would pass and the disrespect would continue. This was his chance to make a stand. With a determined look in his eyes, Barron stood up, his heart pounding in his chest. He wasn't sure what he was about to say, but he knew he had to say something. He took a deep breath and walked down the aisle towards the group of passengers who had been laughing and mocking the soldier's memory. The murmurs of their conversation began to fade as Barron made his way toward them, his calm but firm presence commanding attention. When he reached the group, he stood tall, his voice carrying across the cabin. The announcer's eyes met his, and the three of them gazed attentively at Barron. "Excuse me," Barron said, his voice cutting through the murmur of conversation. "I think you all need to remember something. That flag-covered casket is not just a piece of cloth. It's a symbol of a man who gave his life so we could all be here today. You have no right to mock or belittle that sacrifice." His words were quiet, but filled with an undeniable authority. The cabin fell silent. Passengers who had been participating in the conversation froze, looking up in shock. Some of them shifted uncomfortably in their seats, realizing the gravity of Barron's words. Others sat with their mouths agape, unsure how to respond. The group of disrespectful passengers seemed to shrink under Barron's gaze. They had been so caught up in their own self-centered world that they hadn't stopped to think about the cost of their words. Barron wasn't shouting, he wasn't angry, he was simply stating the truth. He was reminding them of something they had forgotten, the true meaning of respect. It was a message that struck deep into the hearts of those around him. For a moment, no one said anything. The atmosphere in the cabin had shifted completely, the tension palpable. Then, the unexpected happened. One of the passengers, a middle-aged man who had been one of the loudest voices in the conversation, stood up. His face turned red as he glanced around at the others, his posture deflated. I didn't mean it that way," he stammered, his voice trembling with embarrassment. "I'm sorry. I didn't realize how wrong I was." His apology was halting, but it was genuine. The rest of the passengers looked at him, some nodding, others too stunned to speak. The realization of how their words had affected Barron and how they had diminished the sacrifice of the fallen soldier had started to sink in. The Kenko. Barron stood still, his expression calm. He wasn't seeking validation for his words, nor was he looking for praise. He had simply spoken up because it was the right thing to do. But in that moment, the impact of his action rippled through the cabin, forcing everyone to reconsider their behavior. As the man who had apologized sat back down, he gave Barron a brief nod, silently acknowledging the weight of the moment. The atmosphere in the cabin had changed, and Barron quietly returned to his seat, feeling a sense of calm wash over him. He had done what needed to be done. The soldiers who had given their lives for this country had earned more than just respect. They deserved gratitude and reverence, and Barron had ensured that this moment wouldn't be forgotten. Barron Trump's powerful stand for a fallen soldier reminds us of the importance of respect. Have you ever witnessed disrespect or stood up for something you believed in? Share your own story in the comments below, and let's talk about real-life moments of courage and standing up for what's right. We want to hear from you.